Hi, welcome to Up and About with Peekskill United. News, commentary, politics, everything Peekskill. It's been several months since we filmed our last show back in May. We announced that we had to sort of take a little bit of a hiatus because Lewis is running for office and Bruce Bellum being the Republican chair, we thought it'd be appropriate to not feature them on the show. Well, the election is over and the Peekskill boys, just like the Jersey boys, are back together. When we started this enterprise 18 months ago, it was just four guys. We got together at the Hudson Room and we decided that we would put on a cable show to provide people with information about City Hall, information about their city, and just open up the discussion to the public. We invite comment at the end of every show, and we invite people to come on our show during the election. We invited the mayor and Ms. Riley and Ms. McKenzie and Ms. Talbot on. They declined to come on.
And Ms. Agadello.
And Ms. Agadello. We've invited them all on, but they're always welcome to come on. But we're going to continue with what we think is a very important task. People watch our show. I've run into people on the street who appreciate the information. And again, you know, a lot of people say, wow, you're being negative about the city and you're criticizing City Hall and you should really pitch in and cooperate and help. You know, we're all American citizens. It's our duty and our right to overlook our government and to get information and make sure that everything in City Hall is transparent. And we're going to continue with that.
One thing, I mean, I could say it's negative, but what we're really speaking is the truth. We're not making things up, and we're calling it the way it is. So it's not something that we just said, well, we're being negative because we don't like them. We're just telling you what we see and what's going on. And then people can, you know, decide from there.
And we're not here to criticize because we know it is a hard job.
Oh, no question.
You know, whether you do one thing or the other thing, someone's going to criticize what you do. So we're not here to criticize anyone. We're just letting people know the information is going on. Some people think certain things work a certain way. And we let them know that's not the way how it works. There are other ways that it works. It's great being part of this team. You know, the information we get before, other people even know what's going on because of where we at, what we've done. You know, it's great to share with the public and get their reactions and get them to come back and say, well, what about this? Why is this going on? And give them information. And Bob, when it comes to getting information, especially when it comes to the law and how things should get done, no one's better at it than you.
I appreciate that, but that's really our mission, and transparency and overlooking government. We're going to continue to do that.
Absolutely.
We did it for 18 months, and we're going to keep going until maybe the next election when somebody branches off and runs again. So, but we got a great show tonight, and we'll try and provide everybody with some important information.
Real information.
Hi, I'm Bob Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Joe Torres.
Hi, I'm Louis Segarra.
Hi, I'm Bruce Bellum, man on the street.
Our first segment tonight, we're going to talk about the 2019 election, the municipal election for mayor and city council. We're filming right now on December 3rd. The election was just about a month ago. First I want to start off by congratulating Mayor Rainey and Ms. McKenzie, Deputy Mayor Talbot, and Ms. Riley on their re-election. The people spoken, they voted. But beyond that, I'd like to thank Louis Segarra, I'd like to thank Lauren Brady, I'd like to thank Marlon Mahan, and I'd like to thank Vinny Vesey. Ran a great campaign. The issues were out there before the people, and they made their choice. And trust me, running for office is hard work. And if you think that those folks don't give it their all, and it takes a lot out of you, it really does. I want to thank you for that, Louis.
One of the things that we had seen about the campaign was that the campaign was run very, very cleanly. We dealt with the issues, both sides, and the muck and the dirt. Well, there was a little bit towards the end, but predominantly throughout the course of the campaign, you did not see it. You saw the issues being dealt with, which I thought was really good.
One of the things that I think struck a lot of people was the margin, the re-election by Mayor Rainey. And there's a lot of information out on social media about how and why. Political scientists get paid a lot of money to figure that out. They get paid a lot of money to figure out the demographics and who voted and who didn't. What we thought we'd do tonight is, there are some raw numbers. Not all the data has been compiled by the Board of Elections, but one of the things that people are talking about say, well, the Democrats won because there's 1,000 more Democrats registered in the past couple of years, and they're registering on every street corner. That's really not the case. The registration really, I think the increase in registration for the Democrats in 2019.
It's 500.
There's 6,750 currently registered, and in 2017 there was 6,552. So there's like about a couple hundred, maybe about 200 or so in a 2-year period. The Republican enrollment pretty static. It was 2,068 in 2017, 1936. So it went down about probably 120. So is there a little bit of gap in registration there? Yeah, I guess so. There sure is.
Well, it seems to make somewhat sense,
Right.
especially now, with the Trump factor and how toxic, and people who want to identify with being a Republican, they either move to an independent or conservative, and a lot of people moved on and moved into the area, and they're Democrats.
And that's a natural progression. I mean, it is a heavily Democratic city,
State.
so adding on a couple hundred people moving into the city, that's really not something extraordinary, but it certainly belies the narrative going out there saying, well, they're everywhere, they're voting for the dead. That's just not the case. The other interesting thing about the election, though, is this time around, there was about 5,068 people voted for mayor. Okay, 5,068. In 2017, when Frank Catalina ran, 5,100 voted for mayor. So the actual numbers are stayed pretty static. And remember that this year, you had about 1,000 people voted in early voting. So that 5,068 includes the 1,000. So what impact did early voting have on both the results and the turnout? I don't know. But one other interesting number, we were talking about this off camera before we started. Back in 2015, for mayor, only 3,700 voted for mayor. So what does that mean? 37 to 5,100 to 5,000. In 2017, you had the referendum issue that was big, the constitutional issue. You had the county executive race, and people then said that was the highest turnout of any municipal election. So was that an aberration? And in fact, the early voting actually turns out people is an actual municipal election in this town, 3,700? Who knows? We don't know. The data's not there until we have another election with early voting.
Or there's more people interested in the political system now than before, and they come out and they do vote. I mean, that's
And so that number will stay static, whether they early vote or not, and that's a good thing. People get engaged in the process and vote.
But the 2020 election will be for president, and notoriously we get more people coming out to vote.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's not a municipal election. There'll be a big number, there's no question about it.
Well, it will be one though, because whoever they appoint for council.
Because the vacancy has
Yeah,
to
the
go up.
vacancy.
I also saw that in early voting, the numbers were consistent.
Oh, yeah,
Because the Democrats and Republicans here is almost 3.5 to 1.
yep,
And I think that's what showed for early voting as well.
yeah. There's
So-
about 700 voted on the Democratic line in early voting, and about 300 voted
Republican.
on the Republican
Yeah, sure.
line or lines, or
Right.
for your ticket. And that actually includes, the independents and all that other stuff. So that breakdown is roughly, like you suggest, it's kind of akin to the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it was anybody new that voted in early voting. I think it was just the people who normally vote, took the opportunity to do early voting because it's the first time that's been done in New York State and want to take advantage of that. Because as I'm campaigning, I have to pass City Hall. I see the same people who I always see who would normally, vote a certain way.
right?
So I didn't see any, different group of people that I've never seen before or haven't seen them, talking about the issues or campaign. Those are the same people I've always seen, and they were just there early to vote earlier.
Yeah. One of the interesting numbers, though, and this kind of, there's a pretty big margin. I mean, Buvesi lost by about 700 votes, and I think that was consistent along with the Common Council.
Yeah, it's about
you guys as
right
well.
numbers,
So
yeah.
roughly that same margin. But it's very interesting when you look at the actual votes cast for mayor on the respective lines. And this doesn't mean Republican voters or Democratic voters, this is just how they voted on that line. In 2015, when Frank Catalina voted against Ken Martin, 1,535 voted for Ken Martin on the Democratic line, 1563 voted for Frank Catalina on the Republican line. And where Frank made up ground some more was independent, conservative, and all that other stuff. 2017, when we ran with Frank Catalina, it's a little bit of a different picture. The Democratic line, Mayor Rainey had 2471. Frank Catalina on the Republican line, and again, this doesn't mean just Republicans, it's on the Republican line, had 2076. And where Frank made up ground again was he had almost 300 votes to the conservative line, he had 166 on the independents, and Mayor Rainey only had the working party about 104. So he closed that gap to the 58. But when you go ahead to this election, when you look at that gap between Democrat and Republican line, Mayor Rainey had 2,948 votes on the Democratic line. Bouvesi had 1,716. So it's almost a 1,200 vote gap between those two parties.
Right.
Obviously, Vinny made it up with the conservative and independent vote, about 500 votes, but not that gap. So with all those numbers, lie with statistics. What do those numbers mean? I think, is it that there were more Democrats came out because of the early voting? Are there less Republicans came out that added to that gap? I think what really has to happen, we're going to have to look at the breakdown, which the Board of Elections I don't think has yet.
Right.
They can actually tell you what parties voted. I can't tell you what lines they voted, but they can tell you if you're a Democrat or whatever, they have that number. So it's a little complicated, and certainly when you're talking about the messaging, I thought the messaging of both campaigns was really pretty good. I'm a little prejudiced. I thought the message of the Bessie campaign was a little better.
I would disagree with you on both messages being pretty good, because the only message, and I am a registered Democrat, but the only message that I saw the Democrats put out there is vote blue.
Yep.
That was the only message.
Or you were like because you were running on a Republican, take it even though you're a Democrat, saying that because they were trying to say you're Trumpers, and that's all they had.
But
they didn't have any substance.
That wasn't as prevalent as it was 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
This year it was all vote blue because you're Democrat. Let's bring the Democrats in.
No, they put the Trump stuff in though again. Yeah.
But it wasn't as prevalent as it was before.
Yeah, it was.
See,
Well,
I
think a good part of this was the $10 million that was given to the city as a grant. I think a lot of people looked at that and said, well, this is very successful that this administration was able to secure this type of a grant.
But you got a governor to help them out.
And I think their mindset was, let's give them the opportunity to go ahead and see what they can do.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you look at that grant that's given out by the governor, he gave it to Niagara Falls, New York, where a Democratic mayor was running for re-election.
Yeah, it's only when
State of New
Democrats
York,
get it.
Well, we know why it came.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And you know what? Take it and run.
And this was a long time coming. This was the
Sure.
fourth time that they put in for this
Yeah.
grant.
When
And
I was
usually
there, we
with
did
any grant
3
in the
years in a
state of
row.
New York, it's 3 years and then you get the grant.
Right.
So we were next up because
Yeah.
New Rochelle got it in the previous.
Well, when I was there, we did it 3 times, and
Yeah.
every time we came close.
But that grant was very significant in getting a lot of votes for the Democratic Party.
But the one other thing about the messaging, and I'm glad you came out with it instead of me, but here's the thing about the messaging. I ran into a guy, I forget about it, I was waiting for my egg sandwich, and he said, you know what it really is you have new people coming into the city.
I agree with that.
And this is a cool city now. It has the art scene. And so they focus on those things which look neat and are cool. A lot of younger people. That's the demographic that this city decided wanted to try and bring in.
Yeah.
And so, are they engaged in all the issues? Do they know about the budget? They know about the infrastructure?
No.
Worry about it. Your message was all of that. Fix the parks. Do the infrastructure. That's pretty boring stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with the art scene and all that other stuff. So it's that marketing of the campaigns and I got to tell you, I've lived in the city for 32 years, and probably for the first 27 of them, I went to the ballot box and I voted straight Democrat. I didn't care who was there. My good friend John Testa, I never voted for him. And not because I disliked John Testa, it's because he was a Republican.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started looking at some of the issues about what was going on in City Hall, and it was actually at a coffee that I went to with Joe and these guys. And so, if you get engaged in this stuff, you have a little different perspective. So is that part of it? Well, you know, at the end of the day, the people have spoken. They pick who they want and they do what they want to do, and you have to respect that.
I got to jump in there and say, a lot of people don't take it as much as we put out there. Come meet us, come talk to us. Well, you know, so many different ways to come and understand what we're saying. People were set in their ways.
All right.
I mean, people didn't even know who was running.
Yeah.
All they knew is they were voting Democrat. And you know, you ask them, well, what takes you along that line to vote Democrat?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Democrat. I'm like, okay, you don't get it yet. That is not about party. And that was the big thing about our campaign is people over party.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we've
and
had
that's
fusion
just fine.
tickets since.
It doesn't matter, really.
Yeah, when Frank ran in 2015, it came out and there were no Democrats on his ticket. And you and I ran in 2017 and nobody cared. They think that's, you know, this fusion ticket idea of going across party lines, people reject it. They don't like it. And so.
In New York.
In New York.
You know, a fusion ticket is very prevalent throughout the United States.
Yeah.
It's not an unusual thing to have a fusion ticket in many places,
Yeah.
but if you do it in New York, it's why are these Democrats running with these Republicans? And the Republican brand right now is very toxic.
Yeah.
And it's toxic because the guy's sitting in the White House. Has nothing to do with the Republicans in Peekskill and what they want to do. I mean, you know, Vinnie Vesey came up with an excellent idea, which I guess got rejected, but they're getting rid of the transfer tax for people who are 65 and over.
Yeah.
You want to move out of here, sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people want to downgrade, so they go from a house to a townhouse, which means they have to pay twice. You know, Vinnie Vesey in his campaign wanted to get rid of that portion of the transfer tax, which I thought was a great idea, but nobody seemed to hear
Well,
that.
when you're 32 years old, you don't care about that. It
You know,
doesn't benefit you.
well, that's
heard
it. You know, the reality is that nobody really cares about anything that goes on unless bad things start happening. Crime rate goes up.
Of course.
You know, I mean, stuff like that where it's not safe to be on the street, or, you know, I mean, or taxes go up to the point that, you know, people are going to leave here and start saying things are really bad here. And you know, listen, I mean, I know I went over the numbers and stuff like that, and I think it's coming down the road. I think you're gonna see almost like a Newburgh type thing in probably 5 or 10
But
years.
see what happens is people accept the narrative a lot. You know, in the campaigns, they came out with this thing, well, our bond rating went up, and boy, you know, we did that. No, they really didn't.
No, we did that.
The data, the financial data that was based on was entirely during Frank Catalina's administration.
Well, yeah, they wrote the.
Yeah, but they were the majority, of course.
Sure.
Take that credit, but don't say you did it alone. That's just not true. But people believe that. You know, I'll give you one example, and it's something that always sticks in my craw. You know, I'm very famous for having, you know, sued the common council, and everyone says, "Oh, you sued to raise taxes." Well, if you really understand what happened, that's
yeah.
not true.
Right.
But they hear that, and that was the result.
But the reality was, and I was there, is that
Yeah, I sued you.
well, yeah, well, I was there, and it wasn't. The point was is that you sued because the Democrats ran the city into the ground. We had $7,000 in the bank. We were almost getting taken over by the state. They didn't want to do anything. We were upside down with the pension funds. I think the interest rate was through the roof. We were getting killed on it. And, you know, we said, hey, listen, we have to raise taxes to get out of this. And they during that campaign, they promised not to raise taxes. And then what happened is, you know, they found themselves that we knew that they weren't voting for it. And we said, hey, you know, this is what we have to do. And they didn't have the votes to pass the budget. And then they had to come back and try to change the budget. And that's when, you know, it was a big show, and they tried to turn everything around, which they did on their own, but they did it illegally. And that's where he came in and he sued the city. Now, did he want to raise taxes? Nobody wants to raise taxes. But, you know, you also have to know when you have to raise taxes to cover something that was done in the past. You know what I mean?
Well, let's make one thing clear. I didn't care whether the taxes went up or down.
It was a principle. It was a policy principle.
But see, what happens is
Yeah.
people accept the narrative.
Right.
They did with the bond rating. They did, and that was just probably a poor example, but because that's going to get everybody talking.
Well, I think
TV land. But
one thing I'd like to bring up is that I remember Mackenzie looking into the TV and said, you know, I think Frank said it was illegal. And then she said, what are you going to do, sue me?
yeah,
And then right after that, that's
but
what
that had
Frank
nothing to do with it.
But I'm just saying, but it was just that she was arrogant
Yeah.
and saying that, you know, we could do what we want, we're in power, and nobody could stop
But here's the
us.
thing, I think the message to take out of this election is, and it's something And again, the people who've spoken, they have the right to vote for whoever they want. But people should always remember that, and I'll probably be hung in effigy for this. 65 million people voted for Trump. I didn't, I won't, I never will. But 65 million did. So you have to respect what people believe and what they did. And again, with the election here in town, people voted the way they wanted. But I think the mission for whatever team runs again, and it really should be for the Democrats as well as Republicans, is to get more people engaged, to really understand what goes on in City Hall, to watch the City Hall channel, go down to a meeting. If you got a beef, go down to City Hall and let them know.
Well, I think, people don't pay attention to what's going on, because if they really did, they probably wouldn't be voting for these people.
Well,
Because they didn't vote on substance, they voted on, basically,
I think that's
I'm
a
a
little
Democrat,
harsh,
and that's it.
but again, they voted how they voted, and all of this discussion, guess what? It goes in a file, and 2 years from now, whoever is going to run for office worries about the demographics and who did what to whom.
Yeah, and it's probably not gonna get better.
Anyway, I think that's another chapter to be written. Maybe if we get more data from the Board of Elections, and it does come out, and they're very busy down there, we can have another look at it and pick up.
Well,
And we're gonna find out that we lost by
800.
800?
Well, that's what I said. It should just
Well,
go.
then you have to make a decision whether, did you really lose, or were you rejected by the city?
Or was it a particular party didn't turn out? Or
Exactly.
whatever. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's another chapter to be written. And tell us what you think on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'd love to hear your comments. Our next segment, something we do every show, Inside City Hall. We've been off for a few months, and there's been a lot of
stuff
things
to
going
talk
on
about,
in
yeah.
City Hall. Now, again, not being critical, but these are the facts.
These are the facts,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
think
agree.
I think one of the things that we should talk about is there's a bunch of vacancies in City Hall. Last one out, turn out the lights. I mean, we have the judgeship that is going to come vacant because of the election of Judge Lord to the county court. We have the vacancy on the county council, which is due to the election of Mr. Smith to the county legislature. Now, the last time they picked the assistant city court judge, you were
Let me say this, and I can tell you from behind the scenes, when I was on the council, and we were interviewing judges, you know what I mean, which was a total waste of time, because we heard before we interviewed these judges, they were going to go for law, all right? Meanwhile, we sat for hours, hours, and interviewing all these different people that wanted to run for judgeship, and we came across a couple of them that were more qualified than Melissa Laws by a mile, and they still picked her. And we knew they were going to pick her. So, my thing is, when they say that they're going to interview all these people, and maybe they will, probably, at the point now they don't really care if they interview, that they already know who they're going to put in there. So the people that apply are wasting their time. Because, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, but they already know. They had people picked before the election went through, and it was, if, this happens, this is who they're promised to. And don't be surprised.
Let me just say something on that, and kind of aggravates me, right? That people will go along with being told who to put on as a judge.
That's the way it is.
But that is not right, and that's wrong.
I agree.
Actually,
I agree.
because then the best person does not get the opportunity.
Well,
but because there is somebody pulling somebody's string, they get the
listen,
job. Now, let's just talk about Law for a second. Okay, was Law the best person for that job?
No, not a clear
Obviously, she proved that as we went forward.
We had an
We
actual
had incidents with her in
we
the
had
city.
we had an actual judge that had experience and knew the law and knew how to run a court, that ran from another town, and he was more qualified than probably anybody on there because he had the experience. But because he wasn't part of their party, they didn't want no part of him whatsoever. But again, what frustrated me the most, I think, is that they knew who they wanted from the beginning because she was promised.
Anybody who went along with that is a sheep. Number one.
Well, that's what they did.
And I'll say it straight out that way because that's my honest feeling.
Well, I listen. I know. I believe.
And secondly, as it proved out, it was a resume builder.
Sure, it was. Of course, it was.
See, we knew she was going to county court when we interviewed with the Independence Party. The chairman let that leak that she went. So she's just there for like 4 months, and she's already looking for another job.
There's a saying, so the victor goes to spoils.
True.
So they won.
Elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you.
It's up to the residents of Peekskill to say enough is enough. We want things done a certain way. We want integrity in what goes on. But unless they make those changes,
Well,
we
the
can
problem is
talk about as much as we
nobody
want.
really
They gotta
knows.
pick what they want.
But even in one incident that had where these 3 guys beat up, robbed these 2 guys or something like that. One guy with a baseball bat fractured his skull, all right, put him in a hospital. And then she got the case in front of her for bail hearing, right? And she releases them without bail, every one of them. Now, if you're that guy or that family guy, and this happens, that's a very violent crime. And also now, this guy can go back if he go back to these people's houses or whatever and victimize these people again without any bail. I mean, and there's plenty of cases. If you talk to a few cops, I'll tell you, there was a rape case that she gave some guy bail that raped his own stepdaughter and got her pregnant, and she still didn't put the guy in.
But the endangerment of the victim in that case you were talking about came when we had local civic leaders put the family and their victim on social media.
Yeah.
That's the danger. So, but, all right, so, the last time around, I spoke for 17 minutes before the council on who I thought should have been the judge candidate. She was somebody that's bilingual, pretty good thing in Peekskill, professor of law at Seton Hall University, had been a prosecutor, an assistant attorney general, the whole shebang, and that was all for naught. So what I'd like to see, quite frankly, and I argued then, as you know, and you guys did as well, judge is a public officer.
Yeah.
Interviews of a judge should be in public. They say it's a personnel matter. No, it's not. Personnel matter is the janitor, the cleaner at the firehouse, or fireman or cop. Public officer like a judge, federal judges, when they're appointed by the Senate, go to an open interview. And I'd like to see the same thing.
Well, they didn't want it open because and this is what happens.
Okay.
They didn't want it open because they knew the truth. They knew that if they saw some of these people coming up, and they would say, if you're an audience and you say, well, she doesn't even know anything about, anything about traffic violations or anything like that. Meanwhile, you have a couple of people that came up that knew more than she did by far. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying she's a bad person anyway, but if you're going by hiring someone, you're going to hire probably the best fit for your community.
The city did not get the best.
They did not, no, because it was a given thing.
But that, again, that's your discretion on sitting on the council. But
Yeah.
I think if it's open to the light of day, maybe at least people can understand.
Understand.
I think
But they didn't want that, though. That's
I mean,
what
if
I'm
the
saying.
council wants to say, "Hi, we picked a political operative. We don't care. We're going to
Listen,
that's what they're doing.
But
That's
they-
what they're going to do, and no one's going to
Well,
tell
listen,
them otherwise.
this is all about transparency, right? They keep on saying we're transparent, but if you're sitting on a council, like suppose we're all council members, maybe you're the mayor, all right? And if you really want people to see what's going on and think that you're doing the best for the city, you're going to want everybody to see the people come in, and then kind of get a feel for what you think is the best for your community, right? And then you'll see these people talk. I mean, I can tell you, I sat through all these. Some of them were okay, some of them were good. I probably thought Lizette Fernandez probably did the best job of. Her resume was outstanding. She was Hispanic. She was a fit for the community. I thought she was the best fit because we have a lot of Hispanics here. And she was fair. I mean, she was very fair-minded, very brilliant on all her answers, and she knocked it out of the park. And then all of a sudden they say, well, no, we're going to pick probably one of the bottom second or whatever to take that spot. And you're like, what? But we knew that's what they wanted anyway. We knew that's what they wanted.
We get the same thing with the council. And again, elections have consequences. When this vacancy came up, everybody said, well, it ought to go to Lauren Brady.
That's not
Lauren
gonna
Brady. Should have elected Lauren Brady.
Yeah.
All right? So, but by the way, she'd be a great pick, but that's, again, that should be open. If you're looking to select somebody for the common council,
That's the right way to do it.
at least their identities should be known.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
But listen, the reason and it comes back to, and I always say this, one-party rule does not work very well. And it comes down to what's happening now, is that they can't put a Lauren Brady on there because she's going to know what's going on behind the scenes. But there's no money, there's something going on that they don't really want people to know about, or how they pick people or whatever. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about transparency, it's about we're going to do the right thing for our people, and we don't want the people to really know that. So why have someone that's going to come and say, well, that's really not right, and say something about it? So, and that's the problem.
It's a little prejudice, wouldn't you think?
It's a little prejudice, but
I'm not going to use the word outright.
But listen, it's what the people of Peekskill want. You know what I mean? That's what they voted for. So
Let's hop on to another topic. Let's keep an eye on it. I think, what we're really doing is kind of a round robin of issues that are coming up on before the council, and we'll see how they play out. The other thing, the Honeywell project, that was something that your campaign was very vehement about, and the entire city was vehement about. And the roosters came home to crow a couple of weeks ago. We have this issue with the windows in City Hall. The windows that were going to go on there that were selected by Honeywell, like residential windows or something, they don't meet the historic look of the building.
Sure.
And now, for a mere $150,000 more, they're going to get the appropriate windows, and they're going to add that onto the bond. Now, how you enter into a $4.2 million contract?
And then add another 150 to
Now,
it.
look, when we put roofs on my buildings in the woods, we picked and priced the nails, the leaders, the gutters, everything with a price. That's what you do.
Well, I think the bottom line is, and not to cut you off, but is if you own a house and you sign a contract for your house, you're going to try to get the best deal and know what you want for your house, all right? And you know how much it's going to cost. And when you sign that contract, you're going to make sure you know what you're getting for that. Right. Exactly. When they did that contract, none of them knew what they were getting for that. And they didn't really care because it's not their money. You know, it's our money. And a lot of people, you know, and there's people that rent here really don't care because, listen, I just rent here. I don't really care. But the homeowners really pay.
It's one of the things we talked about, having business sense. When the council
They don't have
members said, let's sign the contract and we'll figure out the details later.
Yeah, later, exactly.
Right there, you should have known, and this council person was running for office. Right there, that should have, everyone in their right mind should have said, there's no way in the world I'm voting for that
But you
person.
see, it's going to pay for itself over 20 years. That's like when you go to ShopRite.
Yeah, 20 years.
You just paid $200. He says, "Oh, you just saved $30." No, I didn't. I just spent $200. You know.
Plus, I got a Mario Cuomo bridge to sell you as well.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
So you know that's coming down to roost, and you know we don't know the equipment going in and all that. I mean, Honeywell's the name.
You saw, I watched that meeting when they were going back and forth, and the Honeywell guy was like, "Well, if this doesn't happen today, the interest rate could change."
Right.
And he looked like a desperate salesman. You're watching him like,
It was.
yeah, I was like, "You got to sign this right now."
You know what I mean? A lot of time in it.
But people forget that you're on the council. You control the power to say, why don't we? You know what? We're gonna wait. You know what? If you're gonna raise this, then maybe we should look somewhere else. Instead, they were like, "We got to get this done." I mean, even the mayor is like, "We got to get this done. I don't care what it costs or what we're going to lose. I don't care."
A lot of affluent people from this city went up there and
even the next mayor,
and pleaded their
even a
case
Democratic
to the
next
council,
mayor.
and the council didn't want to hear it, which is very
Except for Ms. Aguilera. You know?
Well,
I don't agree with anything with her politically, but she's got a set and she stands up for what she thinks, and she's the only one who gets her agenda pushed through that council. And so that's really a compliment.
But then she gets ostracized because she voiced her opinion and went outside the crew.
Yeah. See, that contract wasn't even vetted by the Conservation Advisory Council.
No, they just said we're going to run it through. Yeah.
You know, and maybe you don't have to accept what they say, but you ought at least get their input. Right. You know, you're the council.
My opinion is all the things they're doing now. You know what I mean? You're not going to see. They skated on all the stuff that when I was there, Frank and Boo were there. All the stuff that we did was good. They rode that wave now. Now, after this, they're going to own what they do.
No, and I think the Honeywell project, we'll see how that. And again, what we're doing here, these are the issues we're going to keep following for the next year or two. The DRI project, and I have to confess that's something that I haven't followed very closely. I was trying to watch it the other night. They had a committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you couldn't hear it because the audio was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible.
And they had it in the dark, because they had a screen. But that's another thing we got to watch a little bit. There is a request for proposals for private projects under that grant for people.
Well, the state approves that. It depends. They put everything submitted.
For private individuals to get money for their businesses. I think the RFPs are out by December 6th. I think the one thing to watch there is you're taking that state money into private hands. So we have to understand whose private hands and what it's going to be used for. And Boo Vesey said this during the campaign, and I agree with it. $10 million is a lot of money. $10 million what they're talking about it's stretching into is not a lot of money.
Right?
Exactly. The other night at the Charles Point Pier project is finally coming to fruition. They're getting the money, and for years they wanted to preserve that pier to keep the historic industrial history of Peekskill intact. Well, they're going to rip the damn pier down. They're going to put in a new one, and they're going to have like molasses tiles on it to symbolize the molasses that used to be transported over the pier. But that's great. And I remember specifically fencing on line with a very prominent member of the Democratic Party and her husband about, that Child's Point Pier project. It's all a great project, but once you get the pier in, you get the boats coming in, what are you going to do with it? Because really, it's in the middle of nowhere. Really. I mean, it's on the trailway there. It's near Spence Hudson and all that. The next step is, and this is something that really has to be looked at, is what are you going to do with that now to get it to tie in to the business and tourism of the city? You can't attract people up to take a boat up to Peekskill and then get off the boat and go,
Where do I go next?
where do I go next? So, trust me, I was a Navy. I used to do that all the time. You go to port and go, okay, what do I do? That's a mission. That's something that I think has to be done. So we're all into buying these toys and these wonderful projects and spending money. And they're going to use some of the DRI money, I guess, to tie in the waterfront to downtown and to develop Central Avenue. How? That $10 million doesn't go there.
You also got to look at, once they build it, how much money do they have to maintain it?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to eat up the budget right after that. You got $10 million to build all these beautiful things.
Again.
And once they start breaking down, well, where are you going to get the money to
Again,
maintain it?
look at the
costly.
Look at the riverfront. I mean, it looks horrible most of the time. I mean, they barely cut the grass there. I mean, you got weeds coming up between the poles. And as a growing city, they're cutting all their staff. All right, so one guy quits. They don't hire a guy. They say, all right, you're going to do two guys' jobs, right? Meanwhile, the city's going in the wrong direction. And you got so many moving parts now that the city's getting bigger. And you almost have to expand your workforce. Instead, they're saying, well, and it's all about because they don't have money. I mean, if you look at the numbers, and I keep on saying this, they don't have the money because they're putting one guy to do two jobs. But a guy like Brent leaves and they don't want to pay that $120,000 or whatever. They put one guy to give him a stipend for $20,000 and they save that $100,000.
Yeah, but to be fair, they're advertising for the Director of Public Works. That just came up on the city's website.
Oh.
So they're looking for that job. But I don't understand, and this is for us to watch on a couple of shows, where they came up with that change with the city engineer and the
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all about.
There's something behind that's going to show his ugly head. And
yeah.
give it some time.
They're downing all the spots.
Another topic came up last week, a week ago. The mayor comes in to the cow meeting and he announces, you know what? County legislature raised their pay raises 52%. I think we should get a pay raise. And all the council go, yeah, that sounds good to me. And of course, it was all a dog and pony shows, pre-planned, because the comptroller was there with the figures. And the mayor says, 3% raise for me and 2% for the council. And the comptroller comes in and says, oh, no. That's not what we're talking about. 2% to elevate the cost of living from the last time they got a raise. So what's being suggested is the mayor go from $13,000 to $20,000.
All right. And everybody heard that, right?
Right.
But and Joe could probably answer, what is that stipend about? It's not. Is it pay? I mean, because I have no problem with people getting paid.
Well, two things.
Obviously.
Then when you run for office for the city of Peekskill, you're mostly doing it because you're trying to make the city better. It's not really about the money. And it's always been that way in the city of Peekskill. You don't do it because you're going to get money, a certain amount of money, and you can live off of that, and then still become on the council, whatever. It's, these positions are mostly made for either business people that can take the time, all right? Business people?
No.
Or people that can come after work and then come into council.
No. It says councilwoman.
Well, that's what they say, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let's get this straight. The raise for the mayor going from 13 to 20, and the council going from 8,000 to 12,000. Ms. Agadella says, oh, no. The mayor is just a member of the city council. He's a weak mayor. How come he's getting so much more than we are?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's what she said. Now, to add on to this thing, and by the way, I agree with you. They should get more money. It's a disgrace. That stipend is a disgrace.
I think we all agree.
But the problem is you don't roll it out after Election Day, 2 weeks after Election Day, and you roll it out the night that you got to approve the budget. They didn't put this in the budget. There's been no public comment on it in the budget. They're going to take it out of the contingency fund, which is going to deplete the contingency fund.
Sure.
That's not a way to budget, okay? But here's the better thing. Ms. Agadella and the mayor all say, well, you know what else we want? We want health insurance. We want to get on the city's health insurance plan. Because after all, I had to give up my job to go to get on the council. And I'm 26. I got off my father's health insurance. So I want this Cadillac plan. Now, I got nothing wrong with the cops and the firemen and all the people in City Hall with that great plan. They earned it. They bargained for it. Okay. But these people, not even a part-time job,
It's not even a part-time job.
and they want,
And then, this is my argument, is that the reality is when you go and you ran for council, right, it wasn't because it was about the money, was it?
Definitely not.
No, it wasn't about the So, you run for this because you care about your city. You want to see the city, going in the direction you feel is the best you can do. And same thing with the council members. Now, to say that now you need to do it for the money is kind of like, it's a BS. And listen, you do put time in there, but when you first take that job, you understand what you're getting into. So, and for them to say, well, we should be making more. I mean, the benefits alone is going to be $2,000 a person. They have a family, a month, all right, per person. And if you have a family, it's $3,000 a month.
Right.
All right, so so add that up towards your budget.
It's going to come out to about
And then you got all these other people
That's
that've
one
been
point.
working in the city, and now they're getting almost a 50% budget raise. Is that what they're getting? Almost 50%? Well, it's the council and the mayor.
yeah.
All right, and then now you're looking at all the other employees that have been there for years, haven't got maybe a 1%. Some of them are getting a 2%, and on top of it, they're taking all their friends that are there, like the girl with the youth bureau. They gave her a raise when she got there, gave another raise when a couple of months later, and then another raise.
And by the way, the oddity of all this, last year, the only change that the council made to the city manager budget was to cut his proposed raises for professional staff at City Hall. And now they got the big ones to come and get there.
It's gonna,
Don't fault it, but it's the way it was done.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be a disruption in City Hall. People not being happy.
and what I add on is how is this going to affect the budget? Are they thinking clearly, not just for 1 year, but a couple of years down the road? Now, part of what I said I would do is I was going to give my entire salary away to part of the seniors, the youth programs, just because I believe in, if I'm going to run and I'm going to say certain things, I'm going to stand behind it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I stand behind this community, and I was going to do those type of things I said I would do.
Yeah.
But I knew what I was getting into. I knew it wasn't a $50,000.
Exactly.
And I knew I had to give up a lot of time, just like that. So if I wasn't ready to do it, then why jump in?
That's right.
I mean, you can't jump in and then say, okay, now I want all these great things. That's not fair to the residents and the people who voted for you.
So again, and the reason for it was Ms. Aguilera suggested is we have to give these benefits so we can attract more people to the council.
That's part of the socialist
We don't
view.
want people that have cushy jobs to get on the council. That's what you
That's
said.
part of the socialist view.
Well,
Let the government pay for everything.
what would
I
stop
want.
people from having cushy jobs to go for that job if they know they're going to make more money than they're making now?
Anyway, another chapter to be written on this one. So again, let's follow up with this stuff. Our final segment tonight, we thought it appropriate to remember someone we lost just a few weeks ago, back on October 30th, Mayor Frances Gibbs. She was the mayor of Peekskill from 1994 to 1999, and a lot of people don't realize that during her administration and with her vision, the artist loft and the artist area downtown was part of her vision and part of her administration. She was the one that developed the Youth Bureau. She was the one that developed the Business Improvement District. She did so many things for the city as mayor, and by the way, she was the first woman mayor of the city. She's somebody that we're going to miss, and I'm a newcomer to Peekskill. I've only been here about 31 years, but I remember her very well, and I remember her administration. And just to tell a very fast little story, I ran into her when I was campaigning for the city council. Didn't really know her very well, but she helped us campaign at her co-op building, and she was 90 years old, and she had her sneakers on, and I got to tell you, Frank Catalina and John Testa and myself and Joe were hard-pressed to keep up. But when I first met her, I was the first one there, she pointed to me and she said, I remember you. About 20 years before, I'd been before the council advocating for something that was very important to my condominium community. She was a lady, she was a rare one, and she was going strong until well into her 90s. And I think it's somebody that the city should remember, and hope they all do, and we're going to miss her.
I mean, sure, I can say I remember her because when I was on the council, she would call me when certain things would come up on the council, and she would, say, "Hey, listen, this is something that's very important. Make sure you keep your mind to it and understand what's going on with the bid. We had problems with the bid at the time, and we were thinking about getting rid of the bid. and she told me how important it was to have the bid there, and please, keep that in mind and vote for the bid. And so she was always good like that, and I always had a lot of respect for her. I thought she was brilliant on a lot of things that she brought to the city when she was here, and she will be missed.
As we come to the end of this segment, I've got to wish everybody happy holidays, as the holiday season is coming upon us very quickly. I'd also like to wish happy holidays and safe holidays to those people overseas who won't be able to be with their families this year because they're protecting our freedoms. Also the first responders, and especially those people who are homeless and cannot be with their families. I wish them all the best in the coming new year.
I just wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, as well as a Happy New Year. I want to remind everyone to come out on January 1st and join Lauren Brady and her This Is Me Foundation along with her sister. It's a great organization. They do great work. Come out there and join us.
It's down to the riverfront, so everybody knows. And I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to people that don't celebrate Christmas and the other holidays they celebrate. So God bless and enjoy your Happy New Year coming up.
I just want to wish a Merry Christmas to all of you and to all of you. We've been together almost 2 years, all of us. We've become good friends, and especially a happy holiday to you and your families as well.
Same to you.
God is
Thank you.
nice. Merry Christmas.